Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the most aptly named podcast in all the Vikings fandom. This is the Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, ladies and gentlemen. You can see Drew and Ted up there on the corners of your screen right now, Daddy. This is gonna be something that you're never gonna forget. That I can guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Drew and Ted for having me on tonight's show. It's gonna be something spectacular, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
All right, we're only going downhill from there, folks. That was the American Dream.
That's great.
Christopher Gates. He's Chris. He's Drew. I'm Ted. This is Vikings Report Rewind.
No.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Can't really say much after that great impersonation.
No, you really can't. Not at all.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Chris, are you back? Are we still have Dusty Rhodes with us?
I think I'm here now. I'm here.
How you doing, brother?
I think if we did the whole show like that, I don't think anybody would watch. But
let me tell you something, Tony Schiavone. How you doing, brother? Good to see you again. It's been a while.
We're doing all right. Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's always
been
fun
too
to be
long
here with you and Drew and Toots and the cast of thousands that are here in the audience this evening. So yeah, happy to be here with you guys.
Folks, it's a big day today. Why is it a big day? Who knows? Who can tell me really quick?
Free agency.
No, my grandson Josh lost his first tooth today. Give it up for my grandson Josh. He was so excited. I was still at work and he FaceTimed me and said, "Hey, Papa, check this out. It's awesome." So congratulations to Josh. I hope the Tooth Fairy. You know who you are, Tooth Fairy. I hope the Tooth Fairy is very good. To my grandson Josh this evening. Anyways, yes, it is Legal Tampering Day. Like I said, he's Chris, lead blogger, founder, head purveyor of the SB Nation Minnesota Vikings site, dailynorseman.com. He's my co-host in crime on Vikings Report, Drew and Ted, Drew Bunning. Ruby is back there somewhere, making all this happen and making all this possible. As usual with our live shows, we're going to give away a prize. Just make a comment over here on our YouTube, on our live comments. Just say, hi, how's it going, whatever. Give us your thoughts on day one so far. You'll be entered to win a prize. We're going to spin the Toons' Wheel of Destiny like we do at the end of every regular season post-game show. Somebody's going to win a prize. We got a special guest coming on in just a minute. Don't forget, go over to Purple Pain Forums, sign up over there. And go over to our website, VikingsReport.com, to check out the prize vault. We got a big show tonight. A whole bunch of stuff has happened since we recorded our show and through today. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But right now, I want to bring on a good buddy of ours who's been around longer than we have. You know him. You love him from Climbing the Pocket. He is a good friend of mine. I've known him. Golly, buddy, we've known him for 20 years now. David Stefano. Dave, how are you, buddy? You're on mute.
All these years of experience, and I still forget to hit the mute button.
Kick him out.
It's been a busy 48 hours for me. Not only are we watching what's happening in the legal tampering period, when players can go back and forth, and we can see who we can sign, who we cannot, who we dream over, and who we just absolutely do not want to see on the Vikings. We had some news happen. The Grand Poobah down there knows what it's all about, because back in January, Vox Media, who happens to own SB Nation, who helped found Vox Media, well, they've started running into some financial problems, as I'm sure everybody's seen on the news, and it's gotten worse and worse, including with the bank failure here a couple days ago.
So where does this leave you? You're out of a job. If you don't have a job, get out of here. Get out. We got better things to do than talk to an unemployed producer.
You know what? You can't start talking to Dave Stefano unless you ask him what you're drinking. Dave Stefano, what are you drinking tonight? That's how you properly get going with it. There you go.
69. It's an Irish whiskey.
There's more left in that bottle than I expected.
It's because I buy it by the case, Chris.
Good man. Good man.
No, but anyways, so in the end of January-ish, a bunch of pink slips went out to all the sports sites, podcasting arms. And we made it 2 weeks without getting our pink slip. And then climb in the pocket, got notified they're getting a pink slip. We were all the NFL teams except for 9 were released.
Wow.
And there's no rhyme or reason as to which team got released and which one stayed. Most, I think all of the NHL, all of NBA, all of Major League Baseball, all your soccer. And soccer's big. Oh boy, is Major League Soccer big and World Soccer big. And they all got released. Now we're working with SB Nation to move our back catalogs and stuff over to the new sites. And I'm here to announce that part of those new sites is the fact that myself, friend of the show, Tyler Fornes, and of course, the real Forno, and my fellow old blogger, Darren Campbell, are moving, and we have started a new YouTube channel. It's been live less than 24 hours. It is called Vikings First and Skol.
Nice.
Because we want to be there for you, the fans, and you will see us online. We have a Twitter presence now under that name, and we are going to go forward. I'm waiting on Google to hopefully verify so we can do some live shows, not just taped shows here in the very near future. But we are moving forward. And for our podcasts, we are joining a network called Fans First Sports Network. Fans First is starting up. They're scooping up all these teams that got axed. Only we're building it from the ground up, and we're going to do it bigger and better.
Good deal, man. So you got a couple videos up on your website. I saw that. Good luck. I think that's going to be awesome. Glad to have you on board. I don't want you to leave just yet. Before we get going, there was some news that affected all of Vikings Nation over the weekend. We didn't have a chance to talk about it. We would have gone live, but I was indisposed this past weekend. Vikings legend, the face of the Minnesota Vikings franchise for darn near its entirety of existence, Bud Grant, legendary head coach, passed away. Dave, Drew, and I were old enough to remember. Chris, I don't say this to be insulting, but do you remember, were you around for any of the Bud Grant era at all? Do you remember anything?
The only Bud Grant year that my fandom encompasses is 1985, and that's just because that's the year after Les Steckel screwed it up so bad that they need to have Bud come in and fix it for a year before doing what they probably should have done in the first place and just gave the job to Jerry Burns anyway. But exactly, I'm going to let you guys roll along with this part because you're the ones that would remember a lot of this kind of thing.
Dave, I'll get to you in a minute. You had a very kind of an emotional tribute to him on your show, Two Old Bloggers, which you'll now find on the First and Skol Network on Saturday. Drew, I want you to just talk about Bud Grant because you even have a couple years on me, and so you have probably a few more memories than I do.
I don't know. Being that I'm a few years on you, I probably don't have as many memories. It's one of those things I've been dreading this day for a long time. And I always thought, how am I going to react when Bud passes away? Because he's 95 years old?
He was, yeah.
But he was the Minnesota Vikings. And I remember when I became a Viking fan in 1970, he had already come in 66 and he was changing the culture of the team. And Page and Eller, 72, he got Fran Tarkenton back. 73, they got Chuck Foreman in the draft, Rookie of the Year. 76, Sammy White. Bud knew how to build it. Like Paul Krause said, Bud Grant knew how to build and win. He didn't have that good of luck in the Super Bowls, of course, but the guy went to 10 Super Bowls. If you talk about the Grey Cup in the NFL, I mean that's a lot of championships to play in, no matter what country you're playing in. But my biggest recollections of Bud were when somebody made a mistake on the field, and I talk mistakes, I talk about unsportsmanlike conducts and late hits. He didn't stand for any of them. If you committed one, you're running the next 3 days, and you're totally ostracized from the rest of the team. You had to eat by yourself. I mean, he just didn't stand for it. And I remember watching one game, and I don't know if it was Jeff Seaman or Wally Hilgenberg. One of them got unsportsmanlike conduct. And the camera panned right to Bud Grant, and he's standing there with that look. Dave, Ted, Chris, we all know the look.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You all know the stare, and there's just this vapor coming out of his mouth because it was cold out at the Met. And the look he had, I was thinking, man, that's awesome. Bud Grant was like another player. You didn't think of him as a coach. You thought of him as another, like the leader of the troops, leader that fought along with his team. That's how I always saw Bud Grant, as being right involved. He felt like a team member, and God, there's never been a better quarterback. Or a better head coach, I don't think. I mean, he was great.
When I was blogging still for Chris over at the Daily Norseman, I had the distinct honor and privilege to interview Bud Grant and Paul Krause. And the one thing I took away from talking to those two guys was just how much camaraderie there was with that team in that era. You know, Drew, we've talked about it, about a players from that era, how they just rarely missed games. Dave, you remember guys? I mean, they had the same lineup on offense and defense, save one or two guys, for over a decade. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore. And in the off season, they were just as close. There was a famous story I've heard, and I saw it retold this past weekend, that in the offseason, you know, Bud Grant, he was their coach, but he would hang out with them in the offseason. They were going hunting, and it was him and Mick Tingelhoff and one other player. And you know, Bud Grant, stoically a man of few words. Tingelhoff and this other guy said, "Look, we're not talking until Bud says the first word. We're not going to say a word until Bud says something." And they didn't stop for like 5.5 hours, and they had to get gas in Iowa somewhere on their way to Nebraska for this hunting trip. And Bud said it was filled when we left, saying he had filled it up so it was somebody else's turn. Those are the first words Bud spoke in like 3.5, 4 hours, whatever it was. But so you get stories like that, but then you have guys like Jim Marshall say, you know how much he loved you, because he would, when he would criticize you, it was never done in front of the other players. Right. When he praised you, it was in front of the other players, and it was never meant to demean you. It was always to make you better, not only as a player, but as a man. And when you look at Bud Grant's accomplishments, you can't help but think that is how he lived his life, because the tributes are still pouring in from Pete Carroll, NFL coaches, former NFL coaches, former players. And I think that's as good of a tribute as you could say about the guy. Dave, why don't you give us your thoughts before we get you out of here, brother?
Well, you talk about tributes. Heck, he even got one from the Lakers, because many don't remember he was a professional basketball player as well as playing football.
And the guy who drafted him to go and play for the Minneapolis Lakers, Sid Hartman,
who was the general manager of the Minneapolis Lakers at the time.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
Wow, what a connection all the way around, huh?
He was just a great sportsman.
Yeah.
Right? In the truest sense. And it didn't matter if it was football, basketball, hunting, fishing, whatever it was. He was a great sportsman, but he loved people. And that's what I remember. And he you know, everybody calls him old stony face because of those stares Drew talked about. But he was an emotional man. He did care, and he showed it quite often with his players, right? And he showed it against the officials a few times too. I was watching the tape of a Broncos game, and where
Monday night game went to overtime. He was pissed.
Oh, and he rightfully so. When the officiating stopped the clock and they shouldn't have. We got robbed again. It's just typical NFL officiating. Even back then, it was bad.
Great memory. Great memory, Dave. Great memory.
But to see him get so fired up.
It's the only time I saw him that fired up. And all the time I watched him.
There's a couple episodes where he did, but that was one of the most famous. And that endears players to you. I mean, it's just, they're going to go out there and do their damnedest. He's fighting for you. And those are the things I'll miss. He was a great man. He was there for a very pivotal point in my life. As I told the story on Saturday, my folks were getting a divorce, and my refuge was Vikings football. I miss the man. I expected him to live almost forever. It was that type of deal. He is a Minnesota legend that borders right up there with Paul Bunyan and his Blue Ox.
And you say legend, and for those of you that just know Bud Grant by the stories and by the old YouTube footage and all that, it's hard to describe for those of us that got to see it as it happened, how much that influenced our life and how much Bud Grant just kind of loomed over the state of Minnesota. I mean, he was this larger than life figure then. I mean, the steely blue eyes, the salt and pepper buzz cut, just kind of walking the sidelines, and in retirement, he passed from legend to myth almost, with the stories about the players playing in Met Stadium, both teams on the same side of the field, and the cold and the mud, and how we're going to embrace the cold and we're going to use it to our advantage. And it is an era that I don't think any team will ever see again in terms of the amount of quality players that played together for that long, in the environment they played in, and what they were able to accomplish as a group of individuals. I'm honored to say I can remember it, and I remember watching that team play those games. Go ahead, Drew.
I think the definition of, you've heard the term a lot, the teams play in the personality of their coach, that was started with Bud Grant. I think it would start, him and Don Shula got their teams to play representative of what they wanted. He used the weather to his advantage. He knew how to find mismatches. He knew football. He knew everything to use to his advantage. And everybody, like, piggyback off what Dave said about Stony Look, Mr. Stoneface. My brothers used to call him. My brothers used to dig at him all the time. The great Ahmad Rashad, who played wide receiver here back when Bud was coaching, he said, people are wrong about that. We laugh all week with Bud Grant. We crack up with Bud Grant in the office, in the film room. We laugh with him. He just won't laugh on Sunday. He will not, it's a different deal. He laughs all the time, not on Sunday. That's Bud Grant. So I appreciate everybody's thoughts in here. This is really, really great.
All right. Well, Dave, buddy, thanks so much for joining us. Again, tell everybody what's the name of your new channel and what's your broadcast schedule going to be.
New channel is Vikings First and Skol, and just put it in how it's written on the graphic there. And you can find us on YouTube. We will send out the link again on Twitter for quite a while. We want you to subscribe so we can build our subscription and our fan base back up again. We'll be there. We hope to be podcasting hopefully within a week on Fans First Sports Network, but we are now independent creators. You've got myself, Tyler, Darren. We're going to bring on Spencer from Daily Norseman into the draft realm. He's coming, and we're not leaving Daily Norseman. We grew up on Daily Norseman. Chris gave me my first writing gig over on Daily Norseman eons ago.
What was that, 1951? When was that?
It was about that time period. It seemed that way. But we're there because we're fans like you guys are. Everybody is. We love this team, and we want to hopefully bring it and share our experiences and our opinions, whether they're right or wrong. Have a few jokes, not as many as you guys, because you guys are great at it, but have a few on occasion and have a good time and hopefully win one before we die.
Dave started writing for DN so long ago that when he actually started writing, his beard was actually that color.
All right. With that, Dave, best of luck to you and Tyler and to Darren and to everybody else you're bringing on. Nothing but success for you guys, and we'll catch you on the flip side, buddy.
Appreciate
Dave,
it.
Is Two Old Bloggers still on Saturday, right?
Still on Saturday. Same time, 4 o'clock Central. which means 2:00 hippie time for you, Drew. And we are going in depth as usual every week. It is the long form show. We wrap up the week's events. It's This Week in Vikings Land with your two old bloggers, Dave and Darren. And we're going to take it like any Sunday show would, where we break down a few topics and we get deep. And
That's what she said.
Oh, there it is.
and we have a good time.
Well, good. It sounds like you got a good foundation of folks jumping aboard with you. I know Derek Campbell's awesome. Forness, he's really, everybody's really good. So good foundation means good things. So good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Watch out for the solar flares, man.
That's right.
All right, man. We'll see you later. All right, thanks. That's Dave, our good friend from our old Good Morning Gallahorn days, Dave Stefano. All right.
Be better, Dave. Be better.
Folks, we got a whole bunch of news we got to get to, and we got to get to it right now. So, to recap what's happened, Eric Kendricks, as we all know, got cut last week. 8 years, no rumors on where he's going. Linebackers are making some money today.
Yep.
I'm sure Eric Kendricks will get in on that action soon. Adam Thielen, cut, gone. No word on where he's going. My guess, I think he's going wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up, and we'll talk about that clown in just a little bit. And that clown, I mean Rodgers, not Adam Thielen. Cam Dantzler got waived. He got waived, and then he got signed. He got put on, or he got claimed by the Washington Communists. Wait, Washington Commanders. That's what they're going by now. The Commanders.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
The latest with Harrison Smith. Chris, I don't know what the latest is with Harrison Smith. It looked like 2 or 3 days ago that he was going to be a cap casualty, but then they said they were going to kind of negotiate with him, but then they said nothing was imminent, and now that was back to being cut, but now it might be take a pay cut. Do you know what the latest is on him?
Everything I've seen so far is that it seems like the trend is that he's going to get cut. I mean, I guess they've been talking to him about a pay cut, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, which is unfortunate. He's kind of the last tie to the Zimmer era, I guess you'd want to call it. But he's been a great Viking for a long time, and yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be back from the sounds of things.
Drew, do you think he'll be back? I mean, they're going back and forth. I mean, they're really trying. It seems like they're trying to hammer out some kind of agreement for him to stay.
Well, you look at all the players you just mentioned. I think Harrison Smith is a little different than. I'd love to have him stay here, and I think they really want him to stay here so they're blowing it completely up. The Vikings are basically doing this year what a lot of people thought last year they were going to do.
Yes,
but Harrison Smith is so important to that defense. I think other guys just get cut or whatever. I think they're having a hard time looking forward to without having Harrison Smith. But he is a little long in the tooth. But who you replace him with?
And that's the thing. What do you replace him with? What's that?
It feels like he's going to get cut. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's good to wait and see. But I wouldn't mind having him back for another year. And I know people will be angry about that. But he does so much for that defense.
Well, there may be more of an incentive to try and get Harrison Smith back in the fold because Patrick Peterson signed a 2-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Patrick Peterson, I want to go someplace where I can win a ring. Ends up on a team that finished 9-8 last year, and Kenny Pickett's their quarterback.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
If I've been here long enough can I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Corner with Dantzler and Peterson both gone. Weren't they the starters last year, week 1?
I believe so.
I believe they were, yeah.
So both starting corners are gone from last year. Let me ask you this. If the Vikings stay at 23, and God, I hope they don't. That's a whole different story for a whole different day. But if they stayed at 23, doesn't that pretty much say corner is the pick?
No, it does
I don't
not.
think so.
They got to trade back. Let me say that. Unless you're staying at 23 to get, one of those top quarterbacks that drop or something. But what do we got for cornerback now? Chris Gates, Ted Glover.
We've got Andrew Booth, who can't stay healthy. Caleb Evans, who also can't stay healthy. Kalen Barnes, who nobody's ever heard of, and possibly Duke Shelley if they re-sign him, but I haven't seen anything on that.
We're locked in at corner. Oh,
we also have some free agency rumors. Duke Shelley put an eyeball emoji out on Twitter about half an hour ago.
Put a what?
An eyeball emoji. You know, the big eyeball emoji. So that means something, means nothing. I don't know what that means. I did see the Vikings are in talks with with both Byron Murphy and Sean Murphy Bunting, not to be confused with Drew Murphy Bunting or Ruby Murphy Bunting.
It can still be confusing. He's just a little bit shorter than me.
But I think I do think they're going to sign somebody in free agency. And look, we talk about the Vikings need cornerback depth. Why didn't they bring Patrick Peterson back? Well, the reason they didn't bring Patrick Peterson back is because he wanted a 2-year deal. Kwesi Adofo wouldn't give him more than a 1-year deal. Rick Spielman would have given a 2-year deal. Kwesi Adofo didn't, and Pittsburgh ended up doing it. So, and I'm hearing from Tim Black to take on his radar. I haven't heard that, but I will take your word for that, Tay. Or Tim. Tim Tay. Tim Tay.
What up, Tim?
So that's kind of where they stick for defensive backs. The only big move, I guess, and it was kind of a surprise, is the Vikings signed tight end Josh Oliver. And I wish, Drew, we could go back to like last week's show, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago when we highlighted the tight end position. I said something, I believe, to the effect, if there was one position the Vikings were not going to target in free agency.
I agreed with you.
It was tight end.
That one.
Yes, we looked kind of dumb. Chris,
wow, that's new, right?
Did you think Josh Oliver was a big surprise? I mean, were you thinking tight end might be something they'd address in free agency?
No, I mean, we know they're letting Irv Smith Jr. go because he's been injured for most of the last 4 years, and Johnny Munt was all right last season, but I don't think he has quite the athletic profile that a Josh Oliver has. I mean, people get a little wrapped around the axle when they see these contract figures when they come out. The headlines say a 3-year, $21 million deal for Josh Oliver, but if you look at it, it's like 3 years, $11 million, because hardly any of it is guaranteed. Well, only like half of it is guaranteed. So, it was surprising that was the first position they addressed, obviously, but they see something and they want to try to implement them into the offense a little more next season. I mean, if you don't have a really viable wide receiver too, I mean, TJ Hawkinson's your second option in the pass game now, but if you don't have what you feel is a viable wide receiver too, I mean, why not get another tight end out there and try to create some mismatches and whatnot? So, yeah.
I question getting a tight end as their first free agent. They've got needs a lot more, higher priority than tight end. But the news come out, it's 3-year, $21 million deal, and everybody's losing their ever-loving mind that they're paying a backup blocking tight end $7 million a year. They're not. He gets $10.75 million guaranteed. It comes out to like $3.5 million or whatever it is. And I would imagine that third year will have like a fairly high or fairly low cap number with cap savings if they cut him or whatever. So I don't think the contract's bad at all. I think it's a good deal. Drew, what do you like about Josh Oliver? Do you like anything about him?
He's not the prototypical receiving tight end, but he's a damn good blocker. What grades out as the second best blocking tight end in the NFL. Let's start with that. The Vikings need that. A lot of times, guys, it's not about the best 53. It's about the right 53. When you're addressing personnel on your roster, it's about having the right guys. And Bud Grant would be the first one to tell you, we don't need all the flash. We just need the right players. And 98 catches in his career at San Jose State. So even he wasn't catching a lot of passes even in college. But they got a tight end who catches passes. They don't need that. But he's by far the best blocking tight end on the team right now. And I know that doesn't sound flashy. Who cares about blocking tight end? Deep down in all of the mess, it matters. It matters a lot. I love the signing.
The Vikings did not run the ball very much last year. when they did run the ball, they were not very good at it. I kind of thought, Vikings Uncensored has a good comment here. Munt is probably still around, but it spells the end for Ellefson and maybe Muse as well. I kind of thought, I absolutely agree. I think Munt's going to stick. I think he's only making $1 million this year. I kind of thought they were going to roll with the guys they had on the roster. But that is not really going to be the case. And I was watching some stuff earlier about him, about Oliver today, and he's got some potential as a pass catcher. So I think, we talked about Irv Smith, who's 100% gone. Irv Smith's not coming back. How we thought Irv could be like a good complementary, not only pass catching, but primary run blocking tight end to TJ Hawkinson. Maybe, just maybe, they may have something with Josh Oliver who can actually fulfill that role based on his, you look at his RAS at the combine, he had a pretty high athletic score, really flashed some skill. He's been injured a little bit, but we'll see. So the Vikings' first tight end signing is in the books. Odds on for the next guy. Who do you think, or not? Maybe not next guy. Next position. What position do you want to see signed next, Drew, in free agency?
Kind of hinges on Harrison Smith, because you got to have a smart safety back there, somebody to run the defense. But I'm thinking corner. Corner's kind of the guy I think they're looking towards. I don't have a problem with the signing of the tight end. I don't. I kind of shocked me too, Ted. But he's a third-round pick, and he was the third fastest guy at the combine. So Josh Oliver is a good player. But I'm thinking corner. What do you guys think,
Chris?
I agree with Drew. It's got to be a cornerback of some sort. I mean, we talked about who's still left in the cornerback room, and all those guys are incredibly young. I think I saw between all the cornerbacks that are currently on the Vikings roster, they have 3 NFL starts. So and Patrick Peterson was kind of the veteran presence in the cornerback room that kind of helped to mentor and guide all those guys along. And now he's not here anymore, so they need that guy who's actually been around and seen a few things to kind of help guide these younger corners, I think. So I think corner's got to be the next position they address here in free agency.
I firmly believe the Minnesota Vikings need to get a long snapper and a holder before they do anything else. No, I'm kidding. I don't disagree with cornerback. I could see them. There were a couple centers that with Garrett Bradbury with his 5th-year option not being picked up, hitting free agency. I thought maybe the Vikings might be looking at a different center. But I think Ethan Pochik, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and then Quesenberry, the former Kansas City Royals sinker ball pitcher.
The sinker.
I think they have re-signed or are close to re-signing. So it kind of feels like they're maybe going back towards Garrett Bradbury. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth between corner and defensive line because I think they need defensive line help as well, but that's just me. But I could totally see corner being something because, like Chris, you said they've only got 3 total starts of all the guys that are currently on the roster. Yeah, they're going to need help. So expect more Vikings news in the coming days. I think the next big shoe to drop. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned Jordan Hicks, but Jordan Hicks and Chris Reed both restructured and are staying with the team. And a lot of people were complaining that, why would you cut Eric Kendricks and keep Jordan Hicks? Want to riddle me that one, Batman?
Because Jordan Hicks was signed by this front office and Eric Kendricks was not.
Yeah. Jordan Hicks is a lot cheaper. And Jordan Hicks also had the 3rd best run percentage as a linebacker in the NFL last year.
He's not a scrub. He's a good player.
He's not. And he's also younger than Eric Kendricks. And I think now that the Vikings have a defensive coordinator that understands the concept of defense better than the previous one, he will probably use Jordan Hicks a lot better than he was used last year. But we'll wait and see on that.
They still need another linebacker, right? I mean,
they need a few. Yeah, they've got what, Troy Dye, Brian Asamoah, and Hicks, I think, right now. Maybe one or two other guys.
Man, this is the biggest changeover for the Vikings I've seen in a long time.
It is. This is
the blow up, Ted.
I don't know that it's a blow up, but it is a roster turnover for sure. And this is something that we could, Drew and Chris, we have said this is something that probably should have been done at the end of 2019. Even with that playoff win against the Saints, the roster was getting old back then. Rick Spielman just kept extending older core guys longer and longer to worse and worse contracts. And now Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has to deal with it. I mean, look, it sucks to lose Eric Kendricks. It sucks to lose Adam Thielen. It's going to suck to lose Harrison Smith if that happens. But you could argue that this should have been done last year.
Sure.
And the fact that it's being done at all is very encouraging to me as a fan in terms of the long-term outlook for this team.
You know what I'm going to add to that, Ted? It's Kwesi saying, "This is my team. I'm going to do it my way, and if I fail, I fail. But this has to be done, and now it's my team, and I see a fresh start now, moving forward with the drafts and the future free agency." It feels like the moves he's been making is to let everybody know this is his team. I don't know.
Yeah. Chris, are you down with what the Vikings have done so far with getting rid of all these long-time veterans of the team, kind of face the franchise dudes?
I am. I mean, that a lot of folks. I mean, even most of us haven't really seen a true blow it up and start all over type rebuild from the Vikings. They just they've never been bad enough to really be considered terrible, but they've never obviously gotten quite to where they want to either. They're just kind of in the middle here. So yeah, like Drew said, Kwesi is taking this team and just purging just about everyone, getting rid of all the bad contracts. I think the way you put it was tearing the Band-Aid off straight away. And 2023 might be a little painful, but I think they're trying to set themselves up for 2024 for whatever reason that might be. And yeah, this is the rebuild part of the competitive rebuild that Kwesi talked about when he was hired. They took a run at it last year. They won 13 games. They probably wouldn't be able to do it again. And so now they're blowing it up and starting from the foundation.
Yeah, everybody kind of forgets as well that Mark Wilf and Ziggy Wilf, the owner, said, "Look, we think we have a good enough roster to make a run. We think the problem was more coaching than talent on the team. So win with these guys, as many of these guys as you can." And they did that. And they went 13-4. But they could also say, "Hey, look, okay, so we went 13-4, but look how far away we still are."
Well,
so let us now do it our way. And I think that's what's going on.
Ted, they got to 13-4 with the worst defense in the league. How often does that happen? Playoffs. They got to the playoffs with the team that, had the worst defense in the league. So I think after the season, they all sit at the big table and go, "What do we suck at?" All right, Donatel. We need a blocking tight end. We got to upgrade this defense. Because if they made it to the playoffs with a 13-4 record with the worst defense in football, not a rocket scientist yet to be to say, what do you got to fix?
Yeah.
So they know what they got to fix.
And for them blowing the roster up, I still don't think they're going to be that bad. Purple and Gold for Days asked a really good question. Do you think they will bring back Dalvin Tomlinson? No, I think he's going to be too expensive for the Vikings to afford.
No, I think he's gone. He's gone.
Drew?
I don't see him being around for next year.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that I don't think the Vikings. I think the Vikings would like him back. I just don't think they'll be able to afford him. I think he's going to make a pretty decent paycheck. Go ahead, Drew.
I'm going to tell you right now, Ted. The Vikings. One of the things when they sit around that table and start evaluating, they know they need a stopper in the middle. They know they do. They need a premier stopper. Not ripping on Harrison Phillips or any of those guys, but they need to find a guy like Javon Hargrave was for the Eagles, who's now with the Niners, I believe, or somebody.
Yeah.
They know they need that big body up front if they're going to run. That's a first place you look at to get the defense turned around.
Real quick before we keep going, we have got currently.
Hello, everybody.
A little over 100 people in the room. Again, if you want to be entered to win a prize, just go ahead and just make a comment. All you have to do is make one comment, you're entered. It doesn't. If you make 50 comments, you don't get 50 entries. 1 comment, 1 entry, 50 comments, 1 entry. Ruby's going to spin the wheel of Toots' Destiny at the end of the show to see who wins a prize. Go over to VikingsReport.com, click on our prize vault section to see what you might be eligible for. We got some cool stuff in there. Kirk Cousins, we can't do a show without talking about Kirk.
Oh, here we go. Hey, when we're done with Cousins, can you give me your thoughts on Cook? I want both of you guys' thoughts.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure will. Let me write that down. Mark Wilf was on Good Morning Football this morning, and everybody's talking about, is Kirk going to do an extension? Is he going to play it out and become a free agent? Both the Vikings and Kirk Cousins have been, well, I think Kirk wants to do a long-term deal. The Vikings have you've heard through the rumor mill that they don't want to do they don't want to do a long-term extension. Kirk doesn't want to do like a 1-year extension or whatever. They asked him about Kirk Cousins this morning on the show, and he said, Mark Wilf, quote, "We're looking for great things in 2023, and as Kirk is going to be our leader on the offense." You can read into that what you will. They could be trying to get a deal done behind the scenes.
He said nothing.
Chris, do you think Kirk Cousins is going to play out his deal and hit free agency, or are they going to come to some sort of extension or new contract?
So I don't think the extension is forthcoming right now or anything like that, because like you said, Cousins doesn't want to do a 1-year deal, and the team doesn't want to commit to him for the long term as things stand right now. So I think there's one of 3 things that potentially happens. Either he plays this season and manages to play his way into a new contract, which I don't foresee happening necessarily. Second, he plays out this final year of his contract and then moves on. Or, and this is going to be kind of the tricky one with the way things have fallen in the early part of free agency here, he waives his no trade clause and allows the Vikings to send him somewhere else for some sort of compensation. Those are basically the 3 paths that we're potentially looking at going down with Kirk Cousins. But I honestly think if he hasn't already played his last game in Minnesota, this is going to be his final season.
The only way I could see Kirk waiving his no trade clause would be if A, it's a team he wants to go to, and B, he could work out a long-term deal with them before that trade was or not before the trade was executed, but once the trade was executed, they'd have a new contract waiting for him. He'd walk in, sign it, and that'd be the new deal. That's just my thoughts. Drew, what do you think?
I agree with everything to a T that our friend Dusty Rhodes just said. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is just the last domino to fall with all this redo. Kendricks and Hitman and all these guys. He's not going to get – they don't want to extend him. They want to start with the new regime, the new team.
I think they do too.
And I think that I don't know how that really is going to – if you can trade him, trade him. I don't know who's going to quarterback this season. That's a problem. But, you don't want to – extending Kirk Cousins, you're just extending the turnover of getting to where you want to go. I mean, come on.
We talked about Mark Wilf kind of telling Adolfo Mensa and O'Connell last year, look, win with this roster, and then we'll go from there. I think now that Adolfo Mensa, our buddy Dave Popcon says Eric Kendricks is signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. Thank you, Dave. So old friend Eric Kendricks now goes to the West Coast, which is home for him. He went to college. If you all remember, he went to college at UCLA, so he's going home. So good for him. But everybody said, well, like the conspiracy theorists, and there were a lot of them all over social media saying, well, Adolfo Mensa and O'Connell really don't run the team. There's like some dude behind the curtain, some kind of wizard that's really pulling the strings, and
come on,
blah blah blah. I think we can put that to rest, especially if this contract expires with Kirk, and then they walk as a free agent, or somehow get him to waive his no trade clause and move him. But either way, I think this is kind of the last dance for Kirk Cousins and this group of Spielman core guys, the ones that'll be left. That's just me, though.
I don't disagree.
Agree.
All right, so in elsewhere around the NFL and the NFC North, Aaron Rodgers is holding 2 franchises hostage. He's like the PLO, man. He's here. He's holding more people hostage than the friggin' PLO.
Was that Patty Hearst group right there, the PLO?
I don't know. No,
Remember Patty Hearst? Remember Patty Hearst?
Patty Hearst was the Symbionese
Symbionese Liberation Army. That's right.
That is good knowledge. We should let him go in the prize vault for that. That's good knowledge right there.
Don't ask me why the hell I know that. I just do.
That picture with her with the machine gun?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think eventually it's going to get done. I would kind of think what I put on Twitter earlier today. I think it would be funnier than hell. While Aaron Rodgers is kind of making his decision, Adolfo Metz would just kind of slide into the Jets' DMs and say, "Hey, what do you think about old Kirk O'Chains?" and do a deal with Kirk and leave Rodgers and the Packers holding the bag. That'd be fun, but that's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. I think he's going eventually going to be traded to the Jets. Do you guys think that happened, or do you think he's going back to Green Bay?
I don't think Green Bay wants him back. I think that the reports are saying that they're ready to move on to the Jordan Love era, as long or short-lived as that might potentially be. But I don't think the Packers want him back. And
I don't think so either.
If the Jets do trade for him, they inherit that obscene cap figure he's going to have for this year.
Oh,
so, yeah. I don't know. I don't think he's going back to Green Bay. So it looks like it's the Jets or nothing.
Drew,
you know what makes me?
Do you even care?
Do you know what makes me sick?
My lamp.
You know what makes me feel like sliding down a giant razor blade into a pool of rubbing alcohol?
What would that be?
It's listening to this Aaron Rodgers crap for the last 3 off season.
Oh God, I know.
What an attention whore! Shut up! No one cares about you. No one cares. Shut up, dude. I'm so sick of hearing about it. He does whatever he can to hang on. I want to be the top dog in the off season. I want to be talked about. I mean, how long do people? You're watching NFL Network today, trying to get free agent news. Every 30 seconds, it's an Aaron Rodgers. Come on. I don't think the Packers want him either. I don't want him around. Just go off in the sunset and retire.
Jimmy. Well, in other quarterback news, Jimmy Garoppolo got traded or is going to be traded from San Francisco to the Las Vegas Raiders. The 49ers then signed Sam Darnold to be their backup quarterback. So they've got Brock Purdy, Darnold, and Trey Lance. And that Darnold signing ruined approximately, if I carry the one, about 7,403,000 mock drafts that had Kirk Cousins being traded to San Francisco for some picks. That's not happening now, I don't think.
Sam Darnold has been in the NFL for 12 years, and yet he's still only 25 years old. Is he doing the Benjamin Button thing?
I don't.
What on earth is he doing over there? I mean, he's been in the NFL forever, for crying out loud. Jesus.
Oh God. Yeah, I think it was what 12 years ago that he took the Panthers on a 99-yard drive to force overtime, and then KJ Osborne won it on that first drive in overtime, the touchdown.
These USC quarterbacks, Chris, they get more of a leash than everybody else. You know that.
Yeah, they sure do. Yeah.
The Chicago Bears are signing everybody. And now they're going to win the Super Bowl, apparently.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Who did Ryan Poles go get?
Well, they got guard Nate Davis. They got linebacker Tremaine Edwards from the Bills, and they wildly overpaid for him. They also got linebacker TJ Edwards. And they're going to win the Super Bowl, but nobody's taking into consideration that Justin Fields is still their quarterback, and he is still terrible. So, I don't know.
Those are pretty good players, but they got a long way to go, I think. But you know what? They're compiling. They got 2 first-round picks the next 3 years, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
they traded back from that number 1 pick this year. They traded with Carolina. I saw it. 3 first rounds and a bunch of others. So may not be now, but they're on the horizon for something. But I don't know. Chris?
I mean, this is silly season in the National Football League. Everyone gets all overhyped over, so and so we're going to win the Super Bowl because we did this, we did that. I mean, this is not where the Super Bowl is won. That
Right.
comes in about 6 weeks when we get to Kansas City for the draft. So it doesn't worry me too much. They're still awful, like you said.
Do you guys remember back when they were still called the Washington Redskins? They seemed to win the offseason every year. They would sign guys like Bruce Smith. They signed Deion Sanders. They just signed every big name free agent, and it never turned out. The Chicago Bears have spent more money in free agency since 2018 than any other team in the NFL, and 2018 was their last winning season. They have not had a winning season since they've gone on this free agency spending spree. So I'm not too concerned. That's just
another reason why draft to develop is the best way to go.
Yeah. Although I did think that trade to trade down and pick up DJ Moore was a solid move. I mean, but if you're DJ Moore, you got to think you're kind of cursed, don't you? Because you had Baker Mayfield throw it to you last year, who couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. And now you got Justin Fields, who couldn't hit outer space if he got launched into a rocket.
Listen to Ted ripping on the Buckeye. Listen to Ted ripping on to the Buckeye guy. Not a Buckeye anymore.
I mean, no, he's not. He's a Bear. Oh, I was going to love him as a Buckeye. Did great things as a Buckeye. Loved him as a Buckeye.
Don't you hate the Bears?
I can't stand the Bears.
Pricks.
Yeah.
All pricks. I can't stand that team. I can't stand that city.
I'll tell you one team in the NFC North that does worry me very much is the Detroit Lions. They had a very good end of last season, and they signed a guy today that I thought the Vikings might be in on, cornerback Cam Sutton. I thought he was a guy that the Vikings could target. The Lions got him. They paid. It's free agency. They overpaid for him, but I think they got a good player. And I got to tell you right now, everybody's talking about the Bears. As we finish free agency in the draft, I would think the Chicago Bears, or I'm sorry, the Detroit Lions would be the preseason division favorite. That's just me right now.
No, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
What I've noticed about Detroit's early signings, they are signing the right pieces, not just signing guys to fill spots. But Anzalone, great player. That's a guy you want on your team. So the guys I've seen that they've re-signed or signed off free agency, pretty good. They seem to be doing the right thing. We'll see.
Yeah. So the Lions are doing okay. And we got more news coming. Eric Henderson, we heard, just signed. So that's kind of, I think that's got us all caught up on day one of what we like to call legal tampering day.
Can we talk about Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, what was going? And before we start rolling for the prizes, what was the question you wanted to ask us about Dalvin Cook, Drew?
Is he going to be a Viking?
Chris?
I mean, there's at least one team that allegedly has a trade offer on the table for him, and if you're going to be ripping the Band-Aid off and taking all these dead money cap hits and positioning yourself for 2024, there's no reason to bring Dalvin Cook back. I mean, maybe this can finally be the year where we stop giving running backs ridiculous second contracts around the NFL, because in today's NFL, the position's not worth it anymore. You can get guys in the draft and run them into the ground for 3 or 4 years, and then get another guy in the draft. And there's no reason to pay running backs in the NFL big money anymore. So if you can trade Dalvin Cook, I think you do
it. If they have a trade, I saw a couple tweets. One yesterday, it was from a verified guy. I think it was down in Miami. Only had a 1,400 or 1,500 followers, and he said, "You heard it here first." Linebacker Jerome Baker and a 5th round pick from Miami to Minnesota for Dalvin Cook. I don't know about that. I mean, I'd do that trade in a second. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to give me a player at linebacker, and Jerome Baker's not a bad player, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I think Dalvin Cook is gone. If you look at what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is doing,
right?
He's not screwing around with these vets and their expensive contracts. He's not. He wouldn't give Patrick Peterson 2 years. I mean, Patrick Peterson is going to make $7 million in Pittsburgh this year. No way he's going to pay money like that for guys that old anymore. I mean, that's just philosophically against everything he thinks in terms of analytics and his way of thinking in terms of approaching players. So no, I don't think he will. I think he will get a trade offer, and I think he'll move Dalvin Cook. And I'll be honest with you, I'm good with it. I like Ty Chandler. I like Kene Wangwu. And so you roll with Chandler, you roll with Wangwu, and then you roll with this year's Ty Chandler, whoever they pick in the 5th or 6th round, because that's going to be a decent backfield. I mean, people have said, well, then they'll re-sign Alexander Madison. No, don't re-sign a running back to a second contract.
Yeah, man, you guys are spot on to how I feel about the thing. I see a lot of things about Madison. Madison's not. I mean, he's a good running back, but he doesn't get those chunk yards. You got to have that guy.
I mean, now if they want to give him like a $3-4 million a year contract, that's fine. I mean, if you want to, I would think Alexander Madison would want something close to Dalvin Cook money, and if that's the case, then no, absolutely not.
So you guys are thinking committee for 2023?
Oh, for sure, yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, look at I just go back to the Rams when Kevin O'Connell was there. He had a couple guys. One guy was Cam Akers, and there were a couple other guys there that they sort of platooned in and out last year.
Right, right. Henderson or somebody.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
you don't need a big name running back in the National Football League anymore. There's going to be big name running backs, but you don't necessarily need to have one anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And with Adolfo Mensa being a Moneyball guy and their general overall philosophy towards running backs, I could see Dalvin Cook remaining on the team if he takes a pay cut, just like Harrison Smith. But if he's not, then no, they're going to move him. If they get any kind of offer for him at all, I think they're going to move him.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All righty. So yeah, I think that let me do a quick check at Twitter. I should have probably been monitoring this. Yeah, I don't see anything new. Oh yeah,
other than the Kendricks thing, I haven't really seen anything.
Yeah, Bears are still going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, okay, yeah, Bears are done. Yeah, they're going to win the Super Bowl. So there we go. We just might as well shut down free agency now. The Bears have won it all.
Yeah, it's over.
3-14, a terrible quarterback, and they're your Super Bowl champions. Good deal.
Yo, yeah.
All right. Ruby, are we pretty close to getting the Toonce's Wheel of Destiny spun?
You ready?
Hi, Toonces.
Oh, yeah, hi, Toonces. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
We never introduced Toonces. Come on, Ted.
That was rude of me.
You're fired.
Hey, how you doing?
God almighty.
Vikings report all the way.
Oh, jeez.
Here, wait. Trying to get it to go.
We haven't spun this wheel in a while, Ted.
That's what she said.
Hold on just a second. Sorry, I'm trying to get this
I don't even want to
going.
know, so I'm not going to ask.
Give us the eye.
Oh, all righty.
There we go. Can you see
There
it?
we go.
Yeah, sure can.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
All right. You ready? I don't know if there's... Wait, let me turn the sound.
My worthless opinion. That's funny.
And here we go. Can you hear
There we go. Yeah, sure can.
Absolutely. That's a thing of beauty.
Dan
Henneman.
We know Dan O'Henneman.
Dan Henneman. Well done, Dan.
He's been a
job.
great supporter of Vikings Report since day one.
All righty.
Dan.
So that'll about do it for our show. Again, keep an eye out for what the Vikings are going to do with Harrison Smith. Is Dalvin Cook going to be traded? What position are they going to sign next? I mean, they need cornerback and everything else, so it's going to be a fluid couple 3 days. If all of that happens, don't worry. Christopher, Drew, Ruby, and I will be back on Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 7 p.m. Central. And we'll recap what happens between now and then. Any final parting words of wisdom, Christopher Gates?
No, just nothing that we haven't already covered. Just like I said, 2023 is probably going to be a bit of a bumpy ride if a lot of the roster moves we talked about here tonight materialize. But keep your eye on the long term, and that's what Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are doing with this football team.
The great Drew Bunting, do you have any last words of wisdom?
I'm actually not worried because I like bumpy rides. I'm gonna leave you with little Bud Grant. First thing I wanted to say earlier, when I told you earlier something I wanted to say, How dare all these head coaches not win Bud Grant that Super Bowl? Since he,
Well, I mean, you could say, how dare Bud Grant not win a Super Bowl?
well, you could, but
I'm just nitpicking.
he's deserving of it. And I hope KOC is the guy to go up to the podium and say, "This is for Bud Grant."
Yeah,
Because
I
he's
hope
the
so.
first guy I think of when I think of winning a Super Bowl. It's Bud Grant. And I want to leave you with something Bud Grant said. He always said, this is just one of his favorite quotes. To win and endure, you don't have to be brilliant, just determined. And that's what Bud Grant was. So rest in peace, Bud.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace, Bud. For Drew, for Christopher, for Ruby, everybody who watched, who joined us tonight in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. Dan Henneman, congratulations on winning your prize. You know the deal. You're a repeat winner. Rest in peace, Coach Grant. You will be missed by many Vikings fans worldwide. And again, we will see you guys Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here to recap the next couple days. Skol Vikings, everybody. Take care.
So long. Thanks for showing up.